So, bitteschön.
Regie, Kuhstellen.
Kuhstellen.
Oh, ja.
Ich danke dir ganz herzlich.
For many men and women, the age 50 represents an important milestone. It's a time of reflecting. It's a time of looking back. Of taking stock. And of learning to reconcile one's dreams with an often limiting reality. Unlike people, a country has the luxury of reinventing itself endlessly. In its long history, Germany has been a loose confederation of tribes, a kingdom, an empire, a dictatorship. And in the 1920s, and again now, a democracy. The Federal Republic of Germany was born from fire. Spent its infancy and youth amid growing East-West tensions and the constant threat of war. And grew into a promising adulthood thanks to two miracles. One economic, and the other political. The Basic Law, approved in 1949 and intended only as a stopgap measure, has now guided the Federal Republic for 50 years. A half-century that has seen Germany become a major economic power. A revived cultural center. And a reunified nation with its capital once more in Berlin. It's a remarkable story that might have come from the pen of the Brothers Grimm. But the events that happened in post-war Germany are true. Will the tale have a happy ending? That's only one of the questions we'll entertain as we continue our examination of the fall and rise of Germany. For those who think that what happens on a soccer field is of less importance than that which takes place on a battlefield, consider the following. It is July 4th, 1954. A team fielded by the fledgling Federal Republic of Germany is playing Hungary for the World Cup Soccer Championship. A timely goal by Helmut Rahn allows the German national team to triumph by a score of 3-2. According to sociologists at the time, no other single event so strongly strengthened a sense of solidarity among West Germans as did the World Championship victory in Bern. In the world of sports, at least, Germany was somebody again. Germany's next opportunity to shine in the international sports community was to have a very different outcome. The Summer Olympics of 1972 were held in Munich and were intended to be a joyous respite from the tensions and instability that plagued so much of the world. Thousands of athletes from 121 countries took part in the opening ceremonies of the 20th Olympiad. Organizers were determined that the political controversies which had tarnished previous games would not take place in Munich. And at first, it appeared as if goodwill and harmony would indeed prevail. For the first time, the East Germans sent a team to the Olympic Games. While West German athletes such as Heide Rosendahl, Ulrike Meifert, and Klaus Wolfermann all became national heroes. But had things turned out differently, the 1972 Munich Games would be remembered primarily for the record-breaking 7 gold medals won by US swimmer Mark Spitz. But that feat was overshadowed when 8 members of an Arab terrorist group invaded the Olympic Village and took a group of Israeli athletes hostage. An attempt to free them at Fürstenfeldbruck Airport failed. After the resulting bloodbath, 11 Israelis, 5 guerrillas, and 1 policeman lay dead. The Games had lost their magic. Germany would go on to excel in future Olympics and would also begin winning a name for itself in professional sports. Steffi Graf captured many a world tennis championship, as did her countryman Boris Becker. But it is perhaps in the pursuit of amateur athletics that the German character reveals itself best. Germans love sports. Germans love clubs. Germans, no surprise here, love sports clubs. There are, in fact, more than 85,000 clubs affiliated with the German Sports Federation. And each year, some 750,000 people have their performances tested to qualify for Federation sports badges. Naturally, some sports are more popular than others. In Germany, soccer is still the undisputed king. Since that hallowed July in 1954, the German national soccer team has gone on to win 2 more world championships. On the amateur level, every soccer club can dream that its city or region might one day finish a season at the top of the listings. For all but an exalted few, the soccer stadium is first the showroom, then the field of disappointment. The loyal fans are always there. They follow their beloved teams through thick and thin, suffer through their defeats, and celebrate each precious goal with an explosion of joy. The soccer clubs know how to cash in on this emotional dependency. The English word merchandising has crossed the Atlantic with its meaning and its methods intact. Merchandising also plays a prominent role at Formula One speed races. The racing circuit attracts millions of spectators each year to the track and the television screen. The Germans have participated with considerable success. Either as drivers, such as the Schumacher brothers, Michael and Ralf, or manufacturers such as BMW, which has entered the fray with the promise of a V12 aggregate in time for the 2000 racing season.
This car is actually a completely new concept. The experiences of 1998 were applied. We tried to follow a completely new concept concerning the aerodynamic. Then we tried to improve the downforce of the car, which is important for the fast curves in Le Mans. Now it is important to apply it to the racetrack, which is here, and this is where the car is taking its first test run.
Germany's top sports figures receive private financial support, but they also get government money, as do the smaller stars of the athletic firmament. The official view is that sports and sports organizations are among the institutions that serve to stabilize the state.
I owe a big part of the improvement of my performance during the last 2 years to the Deutsche Sporthilfe. It supports young athletes who can attend training camps they otherwise could not afford. We support 3,800 athletes coming from all types of sports, some of them more interesting to the media, others less. We can assume that from these 3,800 athletes supported by the Deutsche Sporthilfe Foundation, approximately 5 to 6% are able to earn their living through their sport. All the others will need to plan for a future profession after their athletic achievements. And here is one of the most important responsibilities of the Deutsche Sporthilfe: to establish a connection to the economy so that these successful athletes can also be successful in a profession.
With reunification, two sports systems that could not have been more different had to be merged. For many East German athletes, a whole way of life was suddenly and fundamentally changed.
The wall luckily came down right at the perfect time, and then I was able as a professional athlete to make my dreams come true. And sometimes it seems like it's been a life which was done a lifetime ago. And a lot of things you have forgotten. The problems we had with trying to travel. I mean, it wasn't like now I can just go. I think, okay, tomorrow I'll make up my mind, I'll go wherever I want to go, and I'll just go and travel. And living in East Germany, that was never, ever possible. And somehow you would live with it. You would arrange yourself with the whole system. It's absolutely incredible that we're sitting here, camera facing Brandenburg Gate from this side, you being an American. And I'm amazed all the time I travel through Berlin, especially through Berlin, to see the changes, to see how many things have been rebuilt, how the colors come back, how the beauty has changed as well. When I'm in the States, a lot of people have forgotten where I'm coming from. They go, oh, Europe, you know, Germany, but they have forgotten it was East Germany. I mean, even there, everything seems to be so far away. I mean, everything to the Americans is far away, which is not close around the country. Somehow there is a pressure on you, yes, because people have a picture of you, they have an image, or maybe they create that picture. They make you a star. But a lot of times I'm with friends. I love being with my friends, just having barbecue and being just a very regular woman. No makeup, no hairdo and all that. Now for TV it's important, I have to have it.
It's not only German athletes who have come to appreciate the value of sports. Like many citizens of the industrialized nations, Germans are placing a lower premium on physical activity. They have become overconsumers of food, drink, and sedentary entertainment. They wear their affluence, not always wisely or well. Here the motto is self-help. Off with those excess pounds. German gymnasiums are well attended, and fitness has become a very big business indeed. Researchers have estimated that sports expenditures account for 1.5% of the gross national product of the Federal Republic. And that's not counting the growing specialty of sports medicine. Some 800,000 people, more than 2% of all employed persons, are involved in the sports sector in some capacity. Perhaps the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but German educators are doing their best to ensure that the potato rolls quite a distance from the couch. They are attempting to create an environment where fitness is prized, where talent is forged, and where those who have what it takes for high-performance sports are recognized and encouraged to seek their own moment of glory. planet, there is a legendary city with a very special building. The German Museum in Munich attracts more than 1 million people each year from around the world. Some of them are, or will one day be, inventors of genius. Others can pretend they are, if only for an afternoon. The results of many centuries of research and engineering reside within these walls. But the clock is always ticking. Our knowledge doubles every year, and competition for the top ranks in science is becoming tougher and tougher. In order to stay in the game, Germany's institutions and corporations invest nearly 60 billion marks in research and technology annually. During the 1930s, Germany suffered from brain drain, as many of the country's leading scientists and researchers fled from the Nazi regime. Of those who remained, many of the most talented were snatched up by both sides of the competing Cold War powers. The Federal Republic was forced to start building a scientific establishment nearly from scratch. A generation later, that effort has borne fruit. Since 1988, Germans have won or shared the Nobel Prize 8 times. Nobel Prize winners for chemistry 1988, Johann Deisenhofer, Hartmut Michel, and Robert Huber. Nobel Prize winners for medicine 1991, Erwin Neher and Bert Sackmann.
The quality of German research is, I think, excellent. It's quite competitive, and it depends, of course, a little bit on the fields. And some fields, particular countries have more advantages or more tradition or so. But in many fields, I think it's very good. Perhaps there is more institutional funding in Germany compared to the United States, so we are not really dependent so much on outside funding, which makes our research more flexible. We are freer to choose topics, even if they might turn out to be risky. Scientists have never been very successful in predicting what's coming. I mean, they can quite well understand why things happened the way they did in the past 5 years or so, but to predict how things will develop, I'm not so sure. I think our understanding of the genomes will increase tremendously, because for many organisms in the next 10, 15 or so years we will have the complete sequences. But to understand the function of the genes is still another step which might take a much longer time. And then people will learn how to genetically engineer, manipulate organisms. This will continue. I would guess that the progress here will be much, much less than people anticipate now.
Germany currently is in 4th place among industrialized nations for expenditures in research and development. And who is conducting all of this research? University teachers mainly. They are, in fact, the bedrock of German research, embracing all scientific disciplines.
Humboldt's idea of the combination of education and research has often been declared obsolete. However, this idea is justified because in order to educate and support future generations appropriately, we rely on this basis of research. The universities in Germany remain under immense financial pressure. With this in mind, we are closely looking at the universities in the United States, which finance themselves mainly from industry sponsoring campaigns and such.
German research and technology is winning global recognition in a number of areas. The human being is at once a marvel of engineering and a fragile vessel, Cancer accounts for over 200,000 deaths in Germany each year. Alzheimer's, AIDS, and Parkinson's disease take their toll as well. But now, genetic and biological engineering are responsible for some genuine breakthroughs in the fight against disease. This chip can communicate with nerve cells. The technology comes from the Max Planck Institute for Biochemistry near Munich. Here, a team of researchers led by Professor Peter Frommherz has been able for the first time to build a bridge between life and computer chips. Individual nerve cells are placed on the open chip in such a way that they emit and receive tiny electric signals. For the researcher, the goal is to be able one day to understand those signals. Years from now, chips like these could steer artificial limbs, enable the blind to see, or shut off pain at the touch of a button. The researchers, however, are not starstruck about their role. They are, they say, merely supplying the nuts and bolts for the miracle workers of tomorrow. Welcome to Art and Com, a creative multimedia agency located in Berlin. Here, inventors stared into computers years ago and took trips into cyberspace. Now they're preparing the next generation of TerraVision, a system that sends data around the world at the speed of lightning. This version will be unveiled at the next World's Fair and will allow online visitors to zoom directly into the exhibition from wherever they are, whether Rio or Tokyo, at the click of a mouse and in real time. One interesting new application is Art and Com's virtual car. It's cyberspace technology without clumsy gloves or glasses. With the aid of touch-sensitive screens, customers can move around the car and study every interior detail up close. Art and Com hopes consumers agree that virtual cars leave more traditional advertising methods in the dust. In 1937, hopes for Germany's promising Zeppelin industry seemed to go down in flames with the Hindenburg. But now, another German airship might just restore that dream. Up until now, heavy loads have been transported primarily by truck, airplane, ship, and once again, truck. It's a time-consuming, expensive, and difficult way to move freight. But that might be coming to an end. For the cargo lifter, such loads are child's play. It simply picks up loads up to 160 tons and sets them down with exact precision, even in inhospitable terrains. Right now, the cargo lifter exists only in the computer and on blueprints, but it should be flying early in the new century. The first plant is under construction, and the initial craft is beginning to take shape in a swimming pool. And from there, the sky's the limit. Saturday morning on the freeway between Munich and Salzburg. Stop and go. Mostly stop. Thousands and thousands of Germans, all with the same blissful dream, to head south for a few days of vacation. These motorists are losing around 440 gallons of gasoline for every minute stuck in this traffic jam, an enormous waste of money and fuel. Above all, it's a prolonged assault on the environment. Researchers at BMW Munich, who have been experimenting with practical alternatives to costly gasoline for years, have finally come up with what may well be the answer. Clean energy is the name of a project that is making headlines worldwide. Basically, it means driving with sun and water, hydrogen instead of gasoline. BMW has had the formula since the 1970s. Now, however, researchers are taking the program a step further, with the goal of producing a closed, environmentally friendly energy circulation. The only waste product a hydrogen-powered vehicle would produce is water. Plain, ordinary, non-polluting water. BMW's research department is also working to calm the nerves of stressed-out drivers engaged in a frustrating search for those elusive downtown parking spaces. What drivers need, according to BMW, is information. So they developed a system of electronic signboards installed on the way in and out of downtown areas. The signboards provide a flow of up-to-the-minute information so motorists can plan accordingly. The boards also generate their own electric energy for operation. By eliminating the need to lay cable, any city can put this information system into service quickly and easily. Soon research will be carried out in an international space station some 6,000 miles above the Earth. The European Space Agency has contracted with Germany to complete the Columbus Orbital Facility, a space laboratory, by the year 2003. The lab will be integrated into the space station, which will one day allow scientists to conduct experiments in gravity, materials research, biology, and other areas. The federal government has great hopes for joint space research and unmanned space travel. It has invested over $1 billion in large-scale projects such as the Columbus Space Lab, unmanned space travel, and the Ariane rocket launcher. What other wonders will we see in the years ahead? Perhaps the answer can come from Hanover at Expo 2000, Germany's first ever World's Fair.
The Expo 2000 in Hanover is a sign for the millennium, especially when it comes to technology and innovation. And I hope that the dialogue, in addition to the technical communication, is what we're looking for all, to talk with each other more when it comes to finding solutions, because that's what we need to do when we're looking into a future.
Like most world fairs, much of the dazzling technology on view at Expo 2000 will never make it past the prototype stage. But a few may well go on to change the way we think, act, and live. And one day in the future, these distinguished devices will find a new home. In a very special building. In a legendary city. On this small, achingly beautiful planet. The end of the Cold War brought joy to Germany, but also new responsibilities. With the threat of the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact gone, the Federal Republic had to learn to rely less on the United States and more on its own military for peacekeeping. Germany had been a member of NATO since 1955. With the turmoil and violence in Bosnia and Kosovo in the late 1990s, however, its participation passed from largely symbolic to undeniably active. It was not an easy decision for the government to make.
We now share the responsibilities with all the other great nations which are our friends on the globe. We enjoyed 40 years of peace and freedom in Central Europe, and I think it's now the responsibility for us to share the responsibilities with our friends where it is necessary.
As welcome as Germany's presence in Yugoslavia has been to its NATO partners, the sight of its soldiers engaged in aggressive action raises a troubling question in the minds of many observers. Can a strong, self-reliant German military be trusted? Or will history repeat itself?
Any military role for the Germans is going to be controversial because it's a new experience for the Germans to sort of actually be dispatching or participating in any kind of military exercise. And you have here, in a certain sense, very deep moral feelings. And so that the debate is a debate that's actually, I think, a healthy reflection of a society that is conflicted about the use of force and about military operations. And given the history of Germany and the number of really tragic consequences that occurred because of military actions on the part of the Germans, it's only, I think, normal that you would sort of say, even if the purposes are very delimited and are limited to kind of intervening for human rights, you're still going to get people who sort of say, this is not what we want to see happen. You can't solve this problem with bombs.
Today, Germany is at peace with all of its neighbors for the first time in its history. It has demonstrated a sincere and solid commitment to democracy and human rights, making it a leading candidate to become a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council.
The Security Council, the permanent membership, was established at the end of World War II and reflected the great powers of that period. But now you have Germany, which is economically and in many respects stronger than the other European permanent members. So a restructuring of the Security Council is imperative. On the other hand, when the Security Council is expanded, the question arises of the veto, because it's tough enough to run it with 5 vetoes. With 10, nothing would ever be decided by the Security Council.
Germany's efforts to promote peace throughout the world must also be balanced by a continuing attempt to confront and make peace with its own past. The Federal Republic's first chancellor, Konrad Adenauer, made the payment of reparations to Jewish victims of Nazi terror a national policy.
The German government undertook very major commitments. That led then to a series of negotiations between the then Chancellor Konrad Adenauer, the founding Chancellor of the Federal Republic, and my father, and the two of them happened to have also developed a very close relationship. Adenauer was looking for an opening to improve the standing of his government with the United States, and the reparations agreements played an important role in that. And father understood that, and so he said even if it cost him potentially personal harm, he would negotiate, provided at all times the Germans honored the commitment that these had to be significant payments, and they were very significant payments.
Germany's relationship with Israel, understandably strained at first, has strengthened to a remarkable degree over the years. The Federal Republic has become the Jewish state's second largest trading partner. German youths can even work in Israeli social service facilities as an alternative to military service. Meanwhile, gradually, cautiously, Jews are once more calling Germany home.
Being here, East Germany and Leipzig, I have never felt uneasiness. But on the other hand, it's a different country, it's a different Germany. An institute, let's say, in the West, it would be much easier because there's a long tradition now since 1945 or 49. And Germany underwent a real transformation. It's not the Germany, let's say, others believe to exist. Even our, let's say, Jewish memory somehow sticks to a Germany which is not real anymore. It's a different country. It's integrated in the West and underwent a very deep-going transformation during the last 50 years. But here it's a different country, and I think even a different culture and mentality. Nobody really knows how long it will take that, let's say, the Eastern or the new, let's say, countries in Germany will be fully accepted and will accept, let's say, the new reality. So there's some uneasiness, but without hesitation, I would say, I think it's good to have a Jewish institute just here.
There are numerous museums and institutions in Germany dedicated to preserving Jewish history and culture. Like the others, this new Jewish museum in Fürth was built to remember the past, but it is not stuck in time. Museum officials are also concerned with Jewish life in Germany going forward.
Fürth was chosen as the location for the Jewish Museum Franken because an extensive Jewish community existed here in the 16th century. Fürth was predestined as the site again because a new Jewish community has existed here since 1945. Many distinguished personalities such as Henry Kissinger, well known in the USA, along with others, are descendants of Fürth. At the Jewish Museum Franken, we are seeking new ways. We are trying to work more subtly. Here we try to show that again a Jewish culture has been existing in Germany since 1945. This museum is an educational institution. We employees are all non-Jews. There is a new situation developing. We also explain to Jews the significance of both the Jewish history and tradition.
In the end, reconciliation will never be the result of a government directive. It must take place instead in the hearts of Jews and non-Jews alike, one heart at a time, in observances such as the Week of Brotherly Love, sponsored each year in a different city by the Society for Christian-Jewish Cooperation. In 1938, Dresden's magnificent Semper Synagogue was burned and later blown up in a series of violent acts directed against the city's Jewish population. "61 years later, that explosion still haunts Reverend Siegfried Reimann. The Lutheran minister has been the driving force in the effort to rebuild the synagogue.
Ich bin kein Jude. I am not a Jew and I don't have Jewish relatives. I was born in 1930 and I grew up in the time When National Socialism ruled this country and people were raised and influenced in an anti-Semitic way. I know what great tragedy came upon the Jews because of this, and it did not let me rest. I tried together with others to confront this past and this guilt and to make it better. I hope we will succeed. The reconstruction of the synagogue, I think, will be a symbol of it.
Und der Bau der Synagoge, denke ich schon, wird dafür ein Zeichen sein. Der Stern, der hier auf dieser
The gilded star, which can be seen on top of this temporary synagogue, comes from the original Semper synagogue, which was destroyed in 1938. It was a fireman from Dresden, still alive, who removed this star from one of the towers and hid it in his home, which was quite dangerous during the Nazi time. When the war was over, he handed the star to the few surviving Jews. It was a symbol of destruction, but also the courage of one single person.
The Nazi era is still an intensely emotional topic to many people. When author Martin Walser challenged the way that Germans think about their past, it produced an immediate and forceful reaction.
With our museum, we try to go a little bit in another direction, maybe also partly in regard to the Bubis-Walser debate. We believe that the confrontation with history cannot only be treated in black and white extremes. We have to work in a much more delicate way. And we always say, we don't want to give our visitors ready-made answers, but like to give them the possibility to confront themselves with history, present and future.
Will there ever be a full reconciliation between Germans and Jews? It is impossible to say. But there are many people committed to seeing the process go forward.
I think in the next 100 years, we might build a new generation, cultured, which might reach the same level as we had before the Second World War.
The relationship between Germans and Jews isn't the only challenge facing the Federal Republic. Former Chancellor Helmut Kohl, seen here receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom in Washington, was the architect of reunification and a champion of European unity. Many Germans wonder if the lingering ill feelings between Easterners and Westerners will ever be a thing of the past, but others are guardedly optimistic.
I have always been convinced that the German reunification was not only an economical, political or financial responsibility, but also a cultural one, a responsibility of human understanding. I believe that the East Germans will only stop complaining or overcome their disappointment when they believe that they are real equals. That means that they will actually receive equal pay for equal labor, and that the unemployment in East Germany is not so much higher than in the West. Also, that there will be an economy in the East comparable to the one in the West. The East Germans have to learn to deal with their experiences of change. They have an advantage in experience over the West Germans how to deal with dramatic changes. The West Germans will also be confronted with dramatic changes, so therefore they must ask about the East German experiences. That means not only the East Germans should be required to look back critically and self-critically to their history, but the West Germans also have to learn to deal with their history and their present in a critical and self-critical way. Only then will we understand that Germany's future really is a joint venture and that both East and West Germans will come closer together as equals working at a common goal.
Will Germany be able to maintain its leadership role in the European Union without alienating other member countries?
Germany is the export engine of Europe. It's a country that lost its traditional Eastern markets back in '45 and suddenly was handed this wonderful free trade zone on a silver platter, and you can't even explain the rapid rise of Germany, the so-called economic miracle, without reference to the European Union. So the Germans, true, are paying more into the Union than anybody else, but they're getting more out of it than anybody else.
What if a new Cold War should develop with an angry, demoralized Russia?
At this moment, Russia has a gross national product equal to Denmark's. And for the next 10, 15 years, Russia is a potential country, a powerful country, but not an immediate either threat or even opportunity.
Will Germany be able to keep its competitive edge in the global marketplace without having to sacrifice social programs and worker benefits?
It might be possible that there is a reduction of the social system, the social network, but I don't think that this is the only way to solve the problems and to find solutions. We have to find solutions rather in a dialogue between economy and the state.
And finally, how will the government deal with rising crime rates, unemployment, youth violence, and the needs of an emerging multicultural society?
I believe that we in Germany have to organize, support and guide our efforts much more towards a mutual understanding between Germans. I am convinced that this common and united Germany will be a real European country, a country which is capable to be peaceful and tolerant and will not regress to its former serious German mistakes.
1968.
I came here in May 1968. I don't feel like a foreigner because nobody called me a foreigner. Well, you can see that I am. My hair is black, so I'm a foreigner. But I don't have any problems. I always have peace. My neighbors and my colleagues are all good to me. I never had any problems. And that is true.
These are the many faces of the Federal Republic of Germany at 50 years of age.
Think back to 1945. Could anybody have predicted the most chauvinistic country in the world becoming the most communitarian-minded, the most anti-democratic society in the world, becoming a liberal, democratic, stable society, a country that was bombed to shreds. I mean, with cities like Munich and Berlin 60% destroyed, within 10 years experiencing an economic miracle and turning out to become the second largest export power in the world and the third largest economy in the world. But most importantly, again, the real miracle in Germany is the political miracle, which is that for the first time we have a liberal, democratic society in Germany, something that had never been the case before.
The new Reichstag building in Berlin opened in 1999 as the government moved its operations from Bonn. It might be a fitting symbol of Germany on the cusp of a new millennium. A striking blend of old and new. But perhaps for an even better symbol, we would have to return to the city where we began our examination of the fall and rise of Germany, Dresden. Here, behind this overcoat of scaffolding, is a once and future jewel of Baroque architecture, the Frauenkirche. Finished in 1743, the cathedral, with its famous dome, the massive stone bell, was the scene of concerts by Bach and Wagner. In a city known for its beautiful buildings, the Frauenkirche stood out. In February 1945, in one of the last air raids in the war, Allied bombers attacked Dresden, utterly destroying the lightly defended city. The Frauenkirche burned for 2 days, then collapsed in a mound of charred stones, along with a noted statue of Martin Luther.
When it was decided in Dresden that the Frauenkirche was going to be rebuilt, I thought it would be wonderful if there would be an American contribution to the rebuilding of the Frauenkirche, particularly since I grew up in Dresden and I heard the tremendous anti-American and anti-English propaganda, the destruction of Dresden by Anglo-American bombers and all of this. I felt, and having then lived in the United States and knowing that Americans, the average American is not responsible for the destruction of Dresden, and it was a military decision, I felt it would be wonderful to have an American contribution to show to the Saxons, to the Dresdeners, to the Germans in general that we are all now interested in reconciliation and building bridges. And so I thought it would be wonderful to have this organization and to make an American contribution to the reconstruction of the Frauenkirche in particular.
Many of the church's original stones were collected and numbered, and will once more be set into place in the cathedral's facade. The remaining stones come from the same quarry where the original sandstone was taken. It will take an estimated $250 million to restore the Frauenkirche to its former glory, but many consider the cost well worth it.
We don't want to exploit the past in any ways, but we really try to look forward and to build something that the loss of Dresden is a loss for everyone, for all people in the world.
The reconstruction is scheduled to be finished in time for Dresden's 800th anniversary celebration in the year 2006. When the cathedral is again whole, something special will be restored to Germany and to the world.
The Frauenkirche is one of the great architectural monuments of Germany, and Dresden is one of the great cities. And it should not have been destroyed at the end of the war. It was an act of which the West cannot be proud. And I believe that the restoration of Dresden to begin with, but especially of the Frauenkirche as a symbol, would contribute to the healing of wounds, and even if wounds don't need to be healed so much anymore with the new generation, it would show the reunification of Europe in a very symbolic way.
The fully restored Frauenkirche will no doubt be a magnificent sight, but the building in its present state is more than a bit suggestive of the Federal Republic in its present state. Incomplete, imperfect, but nonetheless rising from the ashes, reaching to fulfill the dreams of its creators.
This presentation of the fall and rise of Germany is underwritten by Bayerischer Rundfunk.